Welcome to another episode of the TUG Women in Distribution podcast series, where we celebrate and highlight the powerful voices and inspiring journeys of women leaders in the distribution industry. Today, I am thrilled to introduce a visionary, Catherine Poehling. Catherine, or Katie Poehling, is the president and CEO of First Supply, a fifth generation family owned wholesale distributor headquartered in Madison, Wisconsin, my home state. She assumed this role in 2020, succeeding her father, Joe Poehling, who became chairman emeritus. Upon and under her leadership, First Supply has continued to thrive, serving various channels, including plumbing, HVAC, PVF, industrial waterworks, kitchen, bath, and lighting. And I have personally had the pleasure of following Katie's activities on LinkedIn, and I'm impressed that beyond her professional achievements, Katie is committed to fostering a positive company culture and advancing diversity within the industry, which is why I'm very excited to be talking to her today. She's been instrumental in implementing policies that support women, that support employees, all employees, particularly women and working mothers. And she's played a key role in First Supply's recognition as a top workforce in the distribution industry. So, Katie, it's wonderful to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, to kick things off, I gave a little introduction and bio. Can you tell us more about yourself, your career, your journey, and your time with First Supply?
Yeah. So I started in the business, I kind of tell the joke, about 15 years ago, or a little over 40 years, depending on how you're counting. I grew up in the business. I grew up in the warehouses. I grew up in our kitchen and bath stores. I've had various roles, counting boxes and filing papers for many, many years. But really, I grew up around the business, seeing what an interesting place it was. I knew I wanted a job that was as interesting as what my dad did, but I didn't quite know how to
Mm-hmm.
get there. So we have to work outside the business for 5 years. So I graduated from law school and went into consulting. And I honestly was a little surprised when my dad reached out and said, "Would you ever think about coming back into the business?" I thought, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I love it. But after a while, I kind of remembered how interesting I thought his job was and started asking about what I'd be working on. And the rest is history. I've worked through various different departments in the business, led different departments, led branches and stores. We really have an interesting thing in place also, where my cousin, who's our CFO, and I really did a deep dive into the various different divisions of our business, which gave us an opportunity to learn the customers, learn the vendors, and learn the teams that worked in those divisions every day. And that
Mm.
gave me really quickly a really interesting perspective and overview to the business as a whole. And I think I credit that with giving me curiosity about each division in our business, as well as a little bit of expertise about enough to be dangerous, at least, about the various things we do.
Yeah. Well, that is a fantastic perspective. Most family-owned businesses, we have a family-owned business as well, and a lot of the upper management, CEOs, executives, etc., have grown up in the business, so to speak. But what is most important to you as the leader of First Supply?
It kind of goes back to the family business theme, but it was something that really hit me when I stepped into this role. The fact that 700 families rely on the leadership and the decisions we make every day for their livelihood. And that's 700 families, thousands of people that need us to make the right decisions. But it helps, that concept helps push me to really take risk and innovate, but to do it carefully and with support. So making sure that whatever risks we decide to take, the offset isn't enough that things really get bad. And we've been through so much. When I look back at our 127-year history, there's very little that we
Wow.
haven't confronted. Even when we were in the depths of the pandemic, I had the realization, wait, we've been through a pandemic before. Everyone was talking about the flu pandemic at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized we'd done that. So it gives me a lot of comfort that we've been through so much, and we've survived and thrived. But the other thing I think about a lot is that there's the 700 families that rely on me, but also 5 generations of my own family that I
Mhm.
represent our legacy and our tradition. And I truly believe that I'm just a steward of this business for the next generations, whether it's those 700 families or whether it's mine. We have so many people on our teams that have multiple generations of their own family that have worked in our business too, which is a pretty cool thing. That says a lot when you not only want to have your career at a business, but you want your kids and their kids to have their career at your business as well.
Right. And obviously you're doing something right with all of the families, and the culture, the company culture, making you a top workplace in the distribution industry. I thought that was really cool. What, tell me a little bit more about your influence in that company culture. What has really made First Supply a top workplace?
We are so proud of that honor. It's really neat. We believe that we're a great place to work, but when you're recognized externally for that, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But even more so, it's based on our own employees' feedback. So our employees are the ones who really rated us as a top workplace, which makes me very proud. But when I think about how I hope our culture exists, is my uncle Ed said something. He ran our business for many years, and he would say something he was well known for saying. It's kind of a common saying, but people will forget what you say, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And I think if we
Right.
can create a culture that makes people feel good about where they are and what they're doing every day, we're going to have hard times. We're going to make the wrong choice. We're going to do things. But if we can come to work every day and approach it with empathy and trust, we'll get through the good times, we'll get through the bad times, and we'll do it together, and that'll make all the difference. But I can kind of say what I believe our culture should be, and I can live it and be the example, but it's really happening every day on the front line in our branches to our customers with our teams. And we really make an effort to empower our teams to do the right thing for our customers, and each other is also critically important. So they're really creating the space for everybody to thrive.
Wonderful. That's really nice. I think you said, building the trust, and what's interesting, I think you guys, I think First Supply had a film and an opportunity to work with Dirk Beverage on We Supply America, and Reinders did too, and that was so enlightening about, your company and the pride that everybody has working there. And I know, obviously your employees believe that if they gave you that rating. And I also know that you are very active outside of your company. Whether it's advancing diversity or whether it's just advancing the industry itself. Can you share some of the passions and some of the things that you're actively involved in?
Yes. One of the things that I truly believe is that you need to be the change you want to see in the world. So if you see something that's not working, get involved, figure it out, do something about it. And since I've become a mom to 3 girls, I have in mind, be the change you want to see, because your daughters are watching and they'll say, "Hey, mom,
Yes.
there was this problem and nobody did anything about it." Whereas all of a sudden they can say, "Wow, you were instrumental in that, or you cared about that, or I saw what you did there." So a couple of things that have been really important to me. We I was part of the founding group for the plumbing, pipe valves, and fittings industry women in industry division. It's become our fastest growing
Nice.
division in our entire association. We're a little over 10 years old, and it's just been fun to see it grow and develop. Our first year, we were hoping that we could get 50 people there. And last year we had well over 500. So it's just
Wow.
so neat. It's just a neat thing to see happen, and to know that I
Hmm.
was part of it, and really almost lucky, because I came into the industry. There were a couple of other young women coming in at the same time, and we looked around and went, we don't have anything like this. There's nowhere for us to connect. There's nowhere for women who have been in this industry to share their experience with us, for us to learn from them. So
Hmm.
we were in the right time and place to create that. But I found a couple of other things that things that I can give back to that mean a lot to me. My family has a history of cardiac problems, and so Go Red for Women has been really important to me because it helps advance research and development, not only for heart disease in general, but specifically for women as really an under-researched population, especially in cardiac care. And over the last couple of years, I've gotten really involved in the diaper mission here in Milwaukee. When I think about what scares me about having kids, what scares me about having twins, for goodness sake, it was not knowing how I was going to find the resources for them or take care of them in a way that I wanted to. So that's been a cool thing to get involved in just because it brings together so many of the things that are important to me. So try to have a balance of things that are professionally important, but also personally I just care about.
I love that. That is absolutely fantastic. Being a mother of three boys myself, I know that it's a lot of work just being a mother. But to give yourself out, and to volunteer your time and be so impactful in what you're doing, I think that's so great. Um,
Thank you.
and as you know, Katie, and probably have been witness to more times than one. And the distribution industry has historically been male dominated, which can present, unique challenges for women in leadership, women in the business in general. I'm wondering if you have encountered any of these situations, and can you share some ways that you might have navigated these challenges or even biases throughout your career?
Yeah, it's amazing to me still. I'll be in a room, I'll be sitting at a table and I'll look around and I'll think, gosh, I'm still the only woman at this table. How is this happening? And
Oh,
I'm always looking for ways to try to bring young women or other women to the table too, but it's hard, it's easier said than done, right? It's hard
right.
to get the right people at the right seat at the table. So um we'll change it somehow, some way, slowly but surely, but we'll have to figure that out. But one of the things that it's taken me a long time to learn, and I'm still figuring it out, but really trying to be who I am where I am. So before I was a mom, I think I had a different set of priorities, a different set of requirements
Hmm.
for my time and how I was spending it and what I was curious about. And that's different for me today. I use my kids as examples in almost every speech I give because half my brain's always thinking about them no matter where I am.
Right,
So
right,
it's true
right.
for anybody who's a mom, probably. But so it's really just finding ways to be authentic to myself. And I've gotten feedback before, like, wow, you talk about your kids a lot, or you talk about home a lot in meetings, and it's who I am at the moment. I've just got to lean into it because it's what's important to me, and I think it helps me bring my authentic self to work. And that's a hard thing, especially because I think so many men oftentimes think, well, I shouldn't necessarily talk about those things. I don't know why, but it's just been historically something that's been true. And when we feel like we're different or we look different than other people that are in a meeting or at a
Hmm.
meeting, it's hard to point out something that makes us even more different. But I find it does bring people together to talk about my whole self as opposed to just talking about my professional self. And I think I'm lucky to be in a time and place where that's a good thing when you could bring your whole self to work and when you can talk about the pictures on your wall and all the things that are there. That's an important thing to me, and I hope that when other people see that, then it feels safer for them to do that too.
Nice. I appreciate that. And I'm with you. I think part of the purpose of this type of a podcast and getting more women engaged is that we do try and incite some change. We work together, we come together to get more women at the table. I think that's a goal that I have as well, as a leader in our organization. So let's talk tech for a few minutes. One of my favorite topics. I could talk about that quite a bit, but technology, this, it's rapidly evolving. It's changing with automation and RPA or robotics, AI. And I believe your company has made strategic investments in technology to position yourself or itself into the future.
Mhm.
Can you tell me some more about this? I'm excited to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing and how you see these trends kind of reshaping the future of distribution and your business.
We're in major investment mode in this area right now. And one thing that's been fascinating to me, even over the past kind of 5 to 7 years, is how much more approachable some of this tech is to people in distribution like us, especially with
Mhm,
mid-sized companies like mine that, maybe voice pick was the best technology that really made sense in one of our warehouses because of the ROI. We're putting in a
mhm.
full robotic system that is
Wow.
much more approachable to us than it would have been even 7 years ago. So we're really investing heavily. Um, we're putting in a goods to person robotics system. We're adding some other technologies that will really help us, some software platforms, a WMS, things like that, a transportation management system, a TMS system. So a lot of software and a lot of the
Hmm.
integrations of that software that will really help us grow. The number one question I get when people hear we're putting robotics in a warehouse is, well, what happens to the jobs? Is that going to mean fewer jobs? It'll actually mean more because we're
Hmm.
investing, we're growing. That's an opportunity for us to um, take the skills that are base level in a warehouse and automate those, make those robotic, and then encourage our employees to learn new skills or to differentiate their
Right.
skills and do things that are differently additive to the business. So it will eventually end up with a lot more people, and we believe we'll be able to spread some of this robotics throughout our warehouses and not just be in some of the larger warehouses. But it's going to be fun to see how things transpire over the next number of years. The biggest thing we've done over the last probably 12 months is just encourage people to experiment. Of course, obviously safely, security is always number one, number
Right.
one concern. If people ask me what keeps me up at night, it's security, it's IT security. But making sure that we're trying some of the tools and resources that are available to us and investing in some things, doing some testing, failing fast, all those kinds of tech things that are important. But it's not a straight line. I don't think there's not just going to be one big thing that changes distribution
Hmm.
or that improves distribution. It's going to be a series of all these small things, and then how companies can pull them together in a proprietary way that makes their business the most productive and the most effective.
I love it. Yeah, it's very exciting. And being in Madison, which is only about an hour away from where I am, I'm hoping someday to be able to come and visit and see your
Yeah,
technology. Really excited for you.
thank
Um,
you. Please do.
yeah, yeah. So, my former boss and CFO at Reinders had a pretty big impact on my career and my life, really. Mentors and role models, they can have a significant influence. Is there someone in particular in your life, in your past, a role model, a mentor, that made a difference for you?
There are two people that I think of when I think about mentors. One is easy, it's my father. But what was
Sure.
so wonderful about growing up around him and with him, and then transitioning to growing up in the business with him, he really is an icon in our industry. And he thought a little bit differently. He thought he still thinks 10 steps ahead of everybody. And so I just being able to just stand 10 steps behind and see him 10 steps ahead, I learned
Right.
so much from that. I learned, I still do. I still talk to him every day. He's pretty active in the business still. Um, I'll be traveling with him tomorrow to a meeting, but he
Great.
has so much historical knowledge, but he's never not thinking ahead. So it's been incredible, and he really embodies what our culture has been. You'd catch him in a store waiting on a customer trying to write an order. It's like, Joe, you don't know how to write orders anymore. You can't even check the inventory. Stop it. Well,
Right.
but that was just he just showed up wherever that was important, and he's always put people first and really embodied that culture that we all strive to be. But so it's just been a treat to be able to follow him around again for over 40 years and see what that looked like and
Hmm.
see how it evolved and where he's taken that business or taken our business. But the second one is I've gotten to know over the last couple of years through some work with an industry association, Kathy Mazzarella, the CEO of Gray Bar. And she has
Okay.
such an interesting story. And one of the things I really appreciate about her, and she doesn't necessarily even know this, next time I see her, I'm gonna tell her, but it made me think that she's a person that I look at and I see this, that's how it's done. She's someone who's leading a multi-billion dollar business, having grown up through this business and taken the steps to be somebody who's in a male dominated environment and
Right.
show up and be a leader. And she's super involved in St. Louis and a lot of organizations. She's got kids and she's kind of done it all and been that CEO who I look to say, wow, she's a really interesting person to follow. And I remember the first time I met her, I was just starstruck. You wouldn't always
Yeah.
think of that, but she's just such a interesting person. And I sat at a round table with her and I watched how she made everybody feel so included. She commented on everything people had to say. She knew that she was in a position of power and she used it so masterfully because she was running one of the biggest businesses there. She was one of the few CEOs. There's a women's roundtable. And the way she brought everybody in and made you feel like you had a true seat at the table was just incredible. So I look up to her for that ability to lead that way.
That's awesome. And when you talk about leadership, that is the thing to bring people together to help them connect. It's not being a boss, it's being that influence of connection and both one-on-one connection and bringing the group together. Um, so that is really, really cool. I did reach out to Kathy.
Did
Um,
you?
yeah, so I might talk to you afterwards about putting in a good word
Yeah.
to see if she would be interested in talking to me as well. But so anyway, as we wind down here, Katie, you know, every leader is unique, but they all have, special qualities. Maybe one quality that sets them apart, we might call this a superpower. What would you say is your superpower?
This is such a hard question for me. I was thinking about this one so much. And the thing that people comment to me a lot, so I think it might be my superpower. And I know people say you're never supposed to do it, but I think any good leader has to be a masterful multitasker. I can do five things at once. My best friend says I have 3 more hours in the day than anybody else. I think I don't have 3 more hours. I just use my 3 hours differently.
Yep.
But I think about my ability to be with my kids and then turn my brain off and do something else. It's just that ability to move through the day. And I think that might be something women have that is special to us also, because I also think about work-life balance. And I truly believe there's no such thing. It's all blend. I try to travel
Hmm.
with my girls on business trips whenever I can. I try to bring them along to company picnics and all the things so that they're just part of it. It's not me leaving them behind and doing something else. So I think that ability to blend my life together and then multitask in all aspects of it gives me an ability to get a lot done.
Right. Well, obviously it's working. You're doing fantastic things. I wish we had more time. I really would love to continue. I have so many more questions and maybe we'll have a part two at one point. But as we wrap up today's episode, I really want to thank you for sharing your valuable experiences, your insights. I mean, and as another woman leader, I'm very proud of seeing you out in the industry and all the great things that you're doing. I'm sure you're very proud of yourself as well. Your powerful voice and stories are really inspiring. And I know our listeners are going to take away a lot from this. So, Katie Poehling, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very
And
much for having me. And thank you for shining a light on our stories. It's important.
yes, very much so. And to the Tug women and future leaders listening or tuning in, thank you also. And be sure to catch our next episode of Inspiring Women in Distribution.